Well, guys, I don't know about you, but I feel like I've been a bit of a negative Nelly lately, and that's not usually me, but you know, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do, right? So, before I get into this, can I just whine about my shirt and get the negatives out of the way? So, I fell in love with this shirt because it is super soft and comfy. And I knew that these things, these strings were going to drive me nuts. And they do. You know why? I'll tell you why. Glad you asked. It feels like a fly is landing on me every 32.4 seconds. That's 32.5 seconds too often. Yeah, I knew I was going to have to, like, you know, tie them off, cut them, stitch them up, keep them in place. But right now it's just driving me nuts because I haven't done that yet. Anyway, hi, how you doing? Yeah, so I decided, it's kind of weird. This thought came to me before I went to bed because of, and I might even try to find the meme that I found and insert it here. I know I can do that too. I saw this meme before I went to bed, and it said, basically something about this should be a thing where 80-year-olds all move into the same retirement home and become a church plant and live out their days as missionaries basically in this retirement home. And I'm like, yeah, that needs to be a book. I've got to write this book. I mean, my friend posted it and I was like, I feel a book coming on. She's like, yeah, do it. And the more I think about it, the more I can't stand it. As a matter of fact, I will confess that I've already titled it. I think we're going to call this thing Rocking Chair Revival. And yeah, it's going to have to be a while because remember the last one where I said series that have to get wrapped up? Yeah, that's going to happen at least a couple before I even start thinking. But I'm taking notes already. That's where the title came from. I can't work without a title. Where am I going to find notes on this thing if I don't know the name of the book that it's going into, right? So I had to do this. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I've already got characters coming up. I think I'm going to have readers. I think I'm going to let them create characters and then put them in there. I think that'll be fun. It's just going to be a whole lot of fun. And I want to write this book, but when going to bed, I was thinking about it's like all the books that I wish someone would write. And I wish they would do it so that I don't have to, kind of thing. Where like I've always wanted someone to write this particular World War II idea, and I was talking to Jennifer Miss Morgan about it on the podcast. And the next thing you know, we're brainstorming this whole series, and it's not that I mind doing that. I love writing and I love brainstorming and I love coming up with these things, but I'm not going to live long enough to write all the books I want to write, right? So I was like, I wish someone would write some of these ones that I'm really looking forward to. And then I was talking to Krista Del Sorbo, and she and her son had an idea. And so I was like, because before I went to bed, I had like 5 of these things that I was like, I wish people would write these 5 books. And I was like, that'll be today's video. Something a little more exciting, something a little less depressing. I have to say I'm definitely up. I listened to those Spitfire Murders. I feel like I'm back in reading. I listened to the first 10 chapters of Anne of Windy Poplars. I hadn't even touched Anne yet. Read more in, Ashley, I still have an email for you. Read more in Harvester. I'm going to finish that thing a little too quickly, but that's okay. The Harvester is one of those books that you want to slow read and then you can't stand it and you just zoom through it, and then you do the reverse. You zoom through the beginning so you can savor the end, and every reading is different of it. And yeah, it's a favorite that doesn't make sense. It's not a book I should like, but I love. Explain that one. Anyway, so reading is definitely going better, but here we are with these ideas, and I woke up and I could only remember one. So I started looking and I started asking, and I have sticky notes because notes and stickies. Yeah, I got this stuff here. I got 3 pages of them. Although, I didn't pull this up off of here, so there's only like little parts of it, and I wrote big and all the good stuffness. But only one of them is highly specific. So we're going to start off with the first one. In my research for Deepest Roots on the Heart, I do know the title of my own book. Of course I do. in the research for Deepest Roots of the Heart, I ran across this woman that, I took California State History when I was in school because I lived in California. So, of course, I took California State History, right? This is what you do. Guys, never heard of this woman. And she was amazing. Juana Briones was the wife of a cavalryman during the Rancho era, before statehood. She was known as a healer in the area of like Marin County and San Francisco, Yerba Buena, all that area. She was very well known and very well respected. She and her husband, who was a cavalryman, which I may have already said, I don't know. She and her husband had quite a few children of their own, and they adopted several. But her husband was a drunk and an abuser, and she got, this is beyond understanding for the time. You think about this. This is pre-1850. That's all I know for years off the top of my head, because it was before statehood. But she got a church sanctioned, Catholic Church sanctioned separation from her husband because of how awful he was. Okay, that alone is really impressive. But she raised these kids on her own rancho. She helped everyone. She was like, took care of the smallpox epidemics, all these things, right? She was incredible. And when statehood came, many of the Californios, her being one, many of the Californios lost their lands because the squatters came in and they basically like edged them out, and it was a mess. Not Juana Briones. Not only was she one of the few Californios who kept her land and fought for her land, but she took it, get this, all the way to the Supreme Court to get her husband's land after he died. You don't mess with Juana Briones. I want her story in Christian fiction. I'm sure someone has probably written a novel about her, but as far as I know, no one has done it in Christian fiction. And I want to see this through the eyes of her faith. Because if she went so far as to get a church sanctioned separation, then God mattered to her. And I want to know her story. And I have a book on her, and I have a few, little things, but I don't know about her. And this is a book I do not want to write. Who I want to write the book is Jane Kirkpatrick. I want her to write this book so bad I can taste it. But if she won't, then, except that like Kathleen Denley doesn't do actual real people. She writes about real situations sometimes, but, Jane Kirkpatrick's, her shtick, if you will, is that she takes people that nobody knows much about and fills in the gaps and tells their story. That's what I want. So, book number 1 of books I wish someone would write so that I don't have to. And this is one that I actually wouldn't. Because that. Just saying. Next up, as I was thinking about books that I've loved in the last few years and books that I love to write and all the things, I was like, what is missing? Who are the characters I've loved to write most, and who are the characters I don't write enough of, and who are the characters I don't read enough of? And the first thing that came to mind was The Extraordinary Deaths of Mrs. Kipp. And when I thought of that, I was like, yeah, I loved writing Uncle Bud. I loved writing Faye Hartfield and all the people at that retirement home, which, come on. And trust me, there was that moment that I was like, I could have Faye and Charlie move into this place and do this. But I was like, no, that's not going to happen. So, just all these things, right? But I love writing older people, and I love writing, it's really interesting. I love writing teenagers. But I love even more writing younger children between the ages of, say, 2 and 11 or so, which is the age that I'm not very good with. I'm better with teenagers. Teenagers are my thing. I love teenagers. They're great. I don't like writing them as much because there are quite a lot of angsty teenagers in the world. And I don't like writing that. And it wasn't my personal existence. It's not who I was. I didn't have the, just the feelings even of rebellion and whatever. I mean, my idea of rebellion was, leaning in closer to the Lord, if you will. It was kind of funny because my parents were Christians. Who did I think I was, right? But it is a reality out there. My kids, I didn't have that with them. We didn't have the major fights and it's not that they never argued. It's not that they never disagreed with us, but we had a pretty respectful home, and it just wasn't part of our reality. So because of that, I was like, I don't enjoy it as much. If I'm allowed to write teenagers that I consider to be real, but others might not because it's not their experience, then I do well. But I get tired of people going, yeah, they're too nice. I'm like, well, teenagers are nice if you treat them with a little respect. I'm sorry, but it's true. So it's like, anyway. But yeah, I want more books with older people in it. That's the number 2. Just more books with older people, middle-aged and octo, septo, any other ogenarians. Because we need more. We need more. We need more Mrs. Kipps and Uncle Bud. I loved writing Uncle Bud. He was just, man, he was so fun. Yeah, I want to write more characters like my grandma and my granny. I mean, there's some pretty special people there. My plant is kind of listing to starboard. I think I need to fix its prop. I think it's grown above its prop. I gotta show you guys. Bless its heart. Look at that poor little thing. Oh, goodness. Yeah, I'll fix you later, buddy. I think I've gotten myself off centered. Anyway, we'll call this good. But anyway, so there's that, right? When I started writing, I was in my 30s. So I was writing about people in their late 20s and 30s, sometimes early 20s, depending on the situation and what I was writing about. But I was just kind of, because it was who I was and it was, what I was doing. And I had, wide variety of casts in those books of different ages. But often it was really about people who were in my age. But I've kind of grown up a little bit. It's been 20 years, 25 years since I started writing again. And, yeah. So, but I want more. I loved Mrs. Kipp. Can I say that again? And like, Sarah Brunsfeld's next book, The Divine Proverb of Streusel, her uncle, I can't remember his name. I loved him. He was an amazing character. We need more of him. He was a little Uncle Buddy, and so, yeah, I want more of that. And like, because I want to write this book about the unlikely yarn of the Dragon Lady and the wool gathering cast-offs, the Sharon Mondragon. I haven't read Grandma Ruth. I loaned it to a friend before I read it, so I haven't read that, but I'm thinking that's going to be another one, right? Yeah, those are great. and that brings me into another one that I want to see more of, and I don't think we see enough, and that is like the intergenerational stuff. Where are all the intergenerational books? Not that there aren't any, but like Sharon Mondragon did a great job especially in the wool gathering cast-offs, but even to a certain extent in that first one where she's bringing, young women who are just, they're pregnant and just starting their lives together with older women who, they've lost husbands and things, and you're getting that interconnected, intergenerational. I love intergenerational stories, and I tend, depending on what I'm writing, to put some of that in, but not as much as I'd want to. And why is that? Why am I not doing what I would enjoy doing? I think I have reasons in my head, and I have to process that. But yeah, it's just, oh, I'm so sorry. He's just like, and then he leaned. Name that movie. So anywho, Shalish, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, so we need more intergenerational stories. We need more stories of small children. Like that book Shalise got me. I think is it over there? I don't think it's here. Let me look, but I don't think it's here. Maybe it is. Yeah, it is. Until Tomorrow, Mr. Moretti, I think, or Mr. somebody. Marsworth. Nothing to do with Moretti. That is, we need more of that in Christian fiction in particular. And I'm mostly thinking of Christian fiction, but I'm perfectly okay if it's not, as long as it's, clean and still has some hope to it. But yeah, I want more. Don't you think we need more? We need more. Like The Professor and the Housekeeper. That is a beautiful picture of intergenerational, because you have the professor who is much older. Then you have the mom who is like young enough to be his daughter. But then you have a child. And the story is about those three people plus one, sort of. But mostly those three people and all the things that go into it. And yeah, I just had a thought about that book. Total freebie aside. So in that book, we have this guy who's got like 20, 25 minutes, something like that, of memory. And then it restarts. A little bit like every Sunday, but not every Sunday. Is it every Sunday? Something Sunday with Zachary Levi and Alexis Winnell. And then also 51st Dates with what's his face and what's her face. Anyway, the Zachary Levi is better. Anyway, but theirs that resets every night. His, it's like multiple times a day, because it's like every 20, that's like 3 times an hour. If it's 20 minutes, it's 20 to 25. It's like 3 times an hour. Your whole day is starting over, and you don't know that you've lost years, and yet the way the story is told, I realized that as it goes through, and he spends more time with the same people. See, he lost lots of housekeepers. And so I don't think it worked. But, what we do in our experiences and all those things affect our DNA. It actually gets worked into our DNA. And so her consistency and his time with this child and those things together, I think, affect his DNA, so that while he doesn't remember, he isn't as agitated about the change the longer time goes, because it's worked in as this is normal, because there's a stability there. And I hadn't really thought of that. That's neat. Wow. Anyway, totally off topic, but again, multi-generational. We need this intergenerational, multi-generational stuff. There's not enough of it. We are so age segregated in this society. I want more, with less of the segregation, more of the integration. I'm fine. You'd never guess that I was a homeschooler or anything, would you? Yeah. I lied. I forgot. There wasn't one of the other ones that I remembered later on as I was writing this stuff down. There isn't one more specific one. Biblical fiction. It would fit under biblical fiction. I haven't read, and there may be one. And if there is, please tell me about it. But I haven't found and haven't read biblical fiction on Thomas and his missionary trip and work in India. Our minister is from India. He grew up in India, and he always makes a point to say how grateful he is that Thomas came to India to preach the gospel. And I was thinking about it, and it's like, I've never seen a Christian fiction book about Thomas and his work in India. I want to see that. I think that would be fascinating. Yeah, is there one? If there's one, tell me. I want to know what this is. I want to read it, because yes, right? Yes. So, Thomas, there are 2 specifics now. 2 historical figures, Juan of Briones and Thomas. I don't like to call him Doubting Thomas. Can I just say? I don't consider him doubting Thomas as much as confirming Thomas. He's not going to just take someone's word for it. It's kind of the resurrection equivalent of the Bereans. He's going to search and make sure that what is said is true. I don't know that it's so bad. you know? Not that he couldn't believe it could be true. If he didn't believe it could be true, then we have a problem. Because Jesus said he would do this. Okay, there's that. But if he's just wanting confirmation that this really is Jesus, because they had been warned, in the Old Testament, I'm thinking Saul and the witch of Endor, you're not supposed to be communicating with the dead. So we got to make sure that this is a real live Jesus here. So can we call him confirming Thomas? I don't know. Just personal pet peeve. Okay, so we have Juana Briones and more retired heroes and heroines, and Thomas, and intergenerational stories. We have those. But there are lots of historical things that I don't think we get enough of. I mean, like, Liz Tolsma did that with When the Sky Burned. She told a story, the night of that the big Chicago fire happened, and that's all we know about. There was a huge, just enormous fire going on in Wisconsin. It was like, oh my gravy. So when you think about that, what other, there've got to be lots. I mean, I did not know that Wisconsin burned. All we hear about is the Great Chicago Fire. What other things like that happened? What other events that have been overshadowed by, like, the day C.S. Lewis died, a lot of people didn't know it because it was also the day that JFK got shot. So Lewis's death just kind of, got pushed aside. That's not what I want a book about. I'm not saying that. But there are historical things that happened that we don't know about because of other historical things. And I would love to give specifics, but if I knew about them, there's a good chance a lot of people would, and that's not what I'm talking about. I want to know about the things that we don't know about right now. Don't you think? Don't you think we need more of that? I don't know. I feel like we need more of that. So, yeah, definitely more historical novels on specific things that are just underrated. There are scientists that were Christians and, deeply faith-filled. Now, we don't know that they were Christians. That's not part of the narrative that we're taught. And if we haven't looked up that particular scientist and we don't know, I want to know about them. I want to know about the people that impacted them. I want to know about how maybe they could have impacted someone else. I want those stories. Do you know of any? Are there people I need to look up that you're like, wait, yeah, I didn't know about Juana Briones, but I know about this scientist over here. Give it to me, and if you know more people like Juana Briones, I want to know more about them because I want to know this stuff, and fiction is how I really learn. So, just don't change facts. Okay, so my friend's son, so Krista's son, was, when we were talking about that, they were just having this conversation while I was talking with her about it. And he said, I want to know what preachers, like in their 80s, after they retire, what do they do? What does their life look like? How is their faith impacted? And I was like, yeah, we need those stories. We need more books about retiring. Krista mentioned a retired missionary. And, what did they do when they come home and they've spent their entire lives and, learning new cultures and languages and things and trying to bring the gospel to them. Then they come home back to America where there's a church on every corner. And it's not like people don't need to learn about Jesus. It's a thing. But how many of them feel like displaced, maybe they're burned out, maybe they're tired and exhausted, and they're just, they've poured themselves out on the field. There's nothing left, maybe, but all of them, I doubt it. What do they do? What do their lives look like? When he said that, I'm like, that's got to go in my Rocking Chair Revival book because I'm picturing a burned out preacher. He spent all of his life just pouring into. My brain makes him single. I feel like he was single. If he had a family, I couldn't write a preacher with a family where they didn't know the dad at all because he spent all his time, pouring himself into the church and neglecting his family. I can't write that story. Someone should, because it happens too much, but I can't write that story because that's a personal pet peeve of mine. And the jets are flying. We're going to call that good. And it's not that it can't work, but I think I want my guy, and I could change my mind later. I may decide that we need this, and I just need to suck it up and write it. But I don't want to write that guy. I want to write the guy who knew that about himself and said, "Yeah, I'm not yet married. This is not where I want to spend myself." But I just burned out and nothing left to give, and gets roped into moving into this place with them as a consultant or something, and he just kind of can't help himself, and maybe he does just burn himself completely out in his last days, and realizes maybe that it's okay, maybe just expending all for Jesus until the end is exactly what he really always wanted, and maybe it's okay. I don't know that that's what's going to happen, but I'm feeling like maybe this could be a thing. So, but yeah, what about these preachers and these missionaries, well-known, minor ones, all the things? What do they do? Do they retire, and then like is there spiritual atrophy that is a thing? I want to know all the things. I think he's brilliant. I just, thank you, Krista Sen. I won't say his name in case he doesn't let me to. But, thank you, because that, just enriched my book, but also made me go, yeah, where are these stories? I want more of these stories. So, again, if you know of any, I'm pretty sure he'd like to know about it. But also, B, I wouldn't mind knowing. Yeah. So, and then finally, Krista is really, it'll shock nobody, but she's really involved in theater. She's like, I want books with theater as the setting and the cast of characters and all the things, and how Jesus fits into that. And it's interesting because, she's talking about this, because this is near and dear to her heart, but I'm thinking about some of our local theater, and not all of our local theater is like this, but I know that there is some that, it needs Jesus, we also have others that is full of Jesus. Okay, I'm not going to say, that there is no Jesus in our theater, but I'm like, in general, the theater, as with the rest of the world, including our homes, mine, we need Jesus. And so I was like, yeah, where's the Jesus? I want to, because theater is fascinating anyway. I'm just saying. Krista, actually, I'm outing her here. Krista played Tarzan's mother in the musical or something that they did of Tarzan. Was it a musical? I think it was a musical, but it may not have been. It just may have been the play, but I thought it was a musical. I feel like it was a musical. Anyway, Krista can clarify in the comments if she wants, but she played Tarzan's mother. And I think it was the year her son was graduating either from college or from high school. I don't remember which. And her son was Tarzan. And let me just say, only Krista can pull this off, with like, I don't know if she had the walking boot on stage, but she needed a walking boot because she had messed up her ankle at the time. She's amazing. Krista's amazing. Go listen to one of her books. No, that would be listening to mine, and that's a little self-serving. So just ignore me there. But it's a thing, guys. It's a thing. So yeah, those are just a few. I all of a sudden, like, the ideas are flowing, and I know I've been here for way too long, so I'm not going to keep going, but I'm like, there are so many books that I wish there was more of. And I'm sure they're there, but I don't know them. So do you know of books like the ones that I've mentioned that I need to check into? And do you know of authors who would do really well with some of the ones that I've mentioned? What are the books that you wish there were more of? There's not enough. Insert this kind of book here, What do you think? I'll be back Monday, maybe with a May TBR. I don't know what I'm going to do for May. I'm still working on March and some of April, but Yeah, it's a thing, guys. It's a thing. But at least I feel like I'm back. And that's a good feeling. Knowing that book wasn't the book for right now, it's also, I think it's going to help the future, because now in the future when these things come up, I'm going to be able to go, wait a minute. Maybe what I'm reading now isn't the book for me. And that's good. That's really good. So hope you're having a great week. We're having a windy, very warm week. My husband will turn on our swamp cooler on Friday. I'm very grateful because we need it. I'm just saying. I got to go to the store. Anyone need anything from the store? Got to get some stuff for Mom and some packing tape. Got to send my daughter a package. And yeah, need to get other stuff for Mom, but that's a different store, so she's going to have to wait. Sorry, Ma. I'll see you later.